first things first, we're just going to go into where I was, national championships. A few things. First of all, some congrats are in order to the Stands Pivot team. So Chloe Woodruff, she won XCO, which is Cross Country Olympic, which is...
We sponsor them.
Yes, we are sponsors of the Stands Pivot team.
This is pretty crazy. Listen to this.
Yes, this is cool. So Chloe Woodruff won Cross Country Olympic and short track. She swept nationals.
National champion. And two.
Twice.
Uh-huh.
Times 2.
Rose Grant got 3rd place in short track.
Amazing.
And I think that she got 5th or 6th place in XCO.
Nationals.
Keegan Swenson won XCO.
Drink. Yes.
Pretty awesome. There we go. He did not win short track. I think that he got 5th maybe in short track, something like that. Sofia Gomez Villafana was not at nationals because she's Argentine, right? So she was down at the Pan American Games, which is akin to like the Commonwealth Games for those from the UK or pertaining nations.
4 years.
And she got silver at Pan Am Games, which is huge.
Amazing.
And so this team is just completely sweeping it. If you look at this year, Rose Grant is the current marathon champion. Chloe Woodruff has 2 national championships. Keegan has 1. Sophia has 2 national championships and a Pan American Games silver. All this year.
Just this year.
That's
Just
6
this year.
national championships and 1 silver in Pan Ams.
That's pretty amazing.
Over 4 people.
That's pretty amazing. And
That's crazy.
Every epic rides that Keegan's been at, he's been winning. I think Chloe has snagged one too. They've won some fat tire crits. I mean, it's been a really good year. Chloe won a World Cup. My goodness, she won the short the short track in Nova Mesto. Like, super good year. So congrats to them. And not on that team, but also awesome. And you may have, he's actually been on a podcast episode before, Justin Thomas. He's a masters racer in this region, a friend of ours and also TrainerRoad athlete. And he won the 40 to 44 cross country national championship this weekend.
I've got a bone to pick with Justin. He's still a Cat 4 on the road. I think this is his 3rd national championship
I think
in
it
mountain
is his
biking.
3rd, yeah.
It's really annoying to race a hilly race against him. So please upgrade quickly, Justin.
He's such a good athlete, really disciplined, awesome guy.
Extra athlete.
Extra athlete, yep, yeah, and just trains so diligently, and that's what happens. He also, as we joke all the time, he must harbor a tapeworm and takes care of the tapeworm because I've never seen a man so skinny. So
He's
Tucker,
ridiculously lean.
in the forum right now, can you put in the link to the video we did about Justin trying to win cross nats?
yeah, and you can find that at forum.trainerroad.com. Just search for episode 214, and you'll find everything for this episode. Tucker will be throwing in notes and all that stuff. And also, if you're just on the forum, you can throw in notes too. That's helpful. My nationals, I did not win a national title. I didn't expect to win a national title. I'm kind of on a 2-year build trajectory because next year I want to win at least 1 national title.
At least one.
Yeah, that's the goal.
It's just
shoot
he
high.
hangs out with Chloe, Rose, Keegan, and Sophia. Like at least one.
If they're winning them, why can't we? Right? No. But anyways, I wanted to go into. So I got 9th in XCO. And which was about an hour and 48-minute race, I think, or hour and 46-minute race.
That's very good. Top 9.
Yeah, top 9. Yeah, the prestigious top 9. So top 9 there, and then top 6 in short track.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I got 6th
That's actually really
there.
good.
I was so close to 5th, it hurt.
How far off were you from 5th, and how far off were you from 1st?
So I think that I was a full minute off of 1st, and off of 5th.
Which event are we talking about?
It's short track.
And how long short track?
Short track was 28 minutes.
Okay.
And I was, I think I was 6 seconds or something like that off of 5th.
Oh, no.
So I was close, and I was closing in on him. He's a podcast listener. I'm sure he's listening now. I think Mike.
Canceling his account.
Missed a thing. But great race. The tricky thing about this, and we talked about this before, I had the elevation wrong. So short track started at 9,200 feet and climbed to 9,300 every lap, or 9,250. And then XCO started at 9,200 roughly, and then it went up to basically, we were darn near 10,000 every lap, and we did 4 laps.
Okay,
That is really high. And the conversion should be easy, but we're talking plus 3,000 meters here. That's where it starts. That's not like where the tour barely gets close to that at the top.
Yeah, you're there the whole time.
I know, right? You hear about the high elevation, I'm like, what? And then we're going to do Leadville, which is even higher. I'm going to be there in a chair, handing you stuff. I haven't heard anything about nationals. We've done this on purpose, just so we can hear it all here. I don't even know. So I want to know a few things. How did it go? Training equipment and stuff. But then also, what is it going to take to get to that? Get on the podium.
Get you on that podium.
Yeah, get the top step.
So yeah, first things first. It sounds like we're going to go back next year. That the venue isn't going to change. So
that help?
this is applicable. Oh, it helps a ton.
It takes away a lot of unknowns, right?
Yeah, I know. The only thing that would stop that is if Winter Park or the people, I believe Winter Park, the ski resort there, I believe they're the ones that are hosting the event really. And if they for some reason change their mind, then I'm sure it won't be there. But otherwise, I think it sounds like it's going to be there.
Ski resort in the summer is probably not like pushing away business.
I know USA Cycling is planning on going back there.
Good.
That much
Okay.
I do know. So the course is really, so it's not that steep. So the climbing basically starts out and it's like fire road climbing.
What percentage is not steep?
It's like 6%, probably 7% for the one portion.
Drafty?
It has, it can be. And then it has parts where it tips up to like 10%, but it's a fire road. It's not like crazy steep until you get to the latter, I would say latter quarter of the climb. Mm-hmm. And then you go up a descent trail, a trail that's a green trail going down, but that basically means that it's got sections where it's like over 30% for very short
Just
periods.
short pitches.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But basically when you go around a 180, there's a big berm, so you're climbing up that and it's kind of steep. So it starts out steady and then it finishes punchy at the top. And then the descent, this was one of the coolest courses. I felt like I got, like usually with mountain biking, you always feel like you climb forever to descend for a very small amount of time, and you kind of feel cheated on your reward, so to speak, if that's what you're going for. And on this one, I felt like the descent was longer than the climb. Like it was so much fun. I'm not sure how they did it, what sort of science was in play, but
Like
it
a
was
power descent? Were you on the pedals? Or
Yeah, definitely in parts, and it was like it would build up your momentum, and then in parts it would be kind of flat, but you'd be weaving through the trees, so it still felt like a descent, and you were
fun.
pedaling.
That's probably why.
And it was great, and it was kind of tight and technical with a lot of roots, and then you'd hit wide open fast sections, and then the section coming back on the profile for anybody looking to do this event. It doesn't look like it's a climb coming back, and the trail's called Serenity, and it's a total lie. It's basically it's like surgy, rolling little punchy hills covered in roots and rocks. So it's kind of technical at the end. It's an interesting course.
How technical is the descending for people who are listening?
Yeah, so if I was to put if you were to look at a World Cup cross-country course, it's not quite to the gnarliness of something like a Mont Saint Anne, if you've ever seen that one. That one's really, really rough. It's much more like what you see at any typical World Cup, I would say. So, but it doesn't have huge drops. There's no
it's
jumps. Yeah.
It's not.
And especially
not
when they added in rain. We didn't have rain for our race specifically, but for others they did. So the interesting part about that is that it basically opens it up so that a lot of different people can be successful. Doesn't just favor a really light climber. Sure. It can favor a really big rider that just has a big threshold. It doesn't also favor a rider that's extremely technically sound. It also can favor a rider that isn't as proficient in that regard. So, the descent was a strength for me, as it usually is. And the technical section, it was also a strength. I could pull out some time, but on those climbs, the better climbers would end up catching me.
Yeah, so what is let's do everything normalized to sea level right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was your power to weight getting in, and what do you think that the winner's power to weight is?
Yeah, so I was about, at sea level, I was probably about 4.6 watts per kilogram, and the winner, I reckon, was around 5.2 watts per kilogram, somewhere right there.
So a little over half a watt per kilogram.
Yep, yeah, so in other words, about 10% of where I was.
Okay, so can you, in a year, increase that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very possible to get there.
Yeah, I think you might have been able to do it this year if you'd been able to maintain the level of consistency you wanted.
You got sick.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah, and actually I have a spreadsheet that you guys can click into to check this out, and I'll make these public so then people can see it too, and we'll just post links in the forum.
This is very, to me, Chad, this is annoying because he didn't do that much training, and he's like, 4.6.
Yeah.
Right?
So
it just shows that he's got a high base.
Yeah, I looked at my training, and I looked at
It does.
I used TrainerRoad, and I looked at my calendar, and I looked at the TSS and the time that I put in over the last month, or over the last year, and looking at it, and you can see I highlighted where I was sick and green, so you can see that. But basically, yeah, I mean, I'm averaging anywhere around probably 7 hours for the last 6 months a week, which isn't a lot.
Not to win a national championship.
Not to win a national championship.
I mean, it's a testament to a couple things, both your genetic predisposition and also how quality trumps quantity. And it doesn't always trump quantity, but I mean, if you've only got a few hours a week to train, and you as a father and working a full-time job, you only have so many hours, so you definitely have to favor your quality.
And his years of like he's been doing. I know we've talked about this before. Motocross doesn't seem like it's endurance, but it is.
It's really tough. Yeah.
And he's been doing it since what, 16, 15, 14?
No, younger than that. Yeah, I was like 10.
Mm-hmm. 10.
And then ski racing and that stuff
exactly.
too,
So years of a lifetime of doing this gets his bottom. I feel like you're off the couch is 4 watts per kilo.
Yeah, just under, about 3.9, 3.8.
That's my regular.
That's what I used to think was mine, and then I really let it sink. I plumbed new depths.
Yeah. So anyways, I think I can pick it up a lot, and I think I can get into where I need to be, and that's kind of the plan, and that's what I've been on.
So what kind of volume, sorry to interrupt you, what kind of volume do you want to work up to? If you're averaging 7 hours per week, what do you want to be this time next year?
Honestly, if I can average, I bet if I average consistently, if I have 11 hours a week, then I would be fine. I would be where I need to be. It doesn't take that much more than that.
I think so. Yeah.
So, and really, like you said, Chad, it's all about quality within there. It's not just quantity. Yeah. And it's important to be realistic with yourself. So if you're listening to this and trying to find value from this, it's important to be realistic with yourself. And when you look back at your training, you may feel like you've done a lot, but it's good to look back in your calendar and see, maybe I didn't do as much as I thought.
Yeah, and when you do, really look at your consistency. Look at the peaks and troughs. And if there's big differentials between the two, it's absolutely something you can improve.
Yeah, there's those weeks that I travel and they just they set you back, and then sickness sets you back a whole month, I feel like.
Yep. And the other thing to keep in mind with this too is, for me, looking at it, it's really easy for me to say, I just can't train more, right? Because life does feel overwhelming and you have like so many responsibilities. And but I think that we can always be more efficient with our time, and we can always squeeze in more. I mean, Nate, you were in here before the podcast this morning. You did 30 minutes, right? You're just squeezing it in. That
I find too, stuff. Especially with the functional one trainer ride. I mean, come on now, trainer rides. Yeah. They're way more efficient than outside.
Oh yeah.
And then two, our new feature about like extending the cooldown. I do that in some of the hard rides. You just give yourself 15, 30 minutes. You do 15 extra minutes over 6 months. That starts to add up a lot. And you're doing it on tired legs. Because you're at the end of the workout.
Yes.
You sit into aerobic. Chad, we've talked about this. That's good.
Yeah,
right?
That's heaping a stimulus on top of the stimulus you already achieved with the bulk of the workout.
And hopefully not doing so excessively.
And, a low intensity stimulus at that. So you just, we've talked about ratcheting up TSS, and that's a really safe way to do it and surprisingly effective.
Yeah. Now, the other side of this too is if you are the sort of person that's only able to ride outside or only wants to ride outside, now you can actually, you don't have the excuse of, I don't have structure now. Because if you use TrainerRoad, you can have your workouts outside. So then you can get your quality in, and kind of how you talked about with adding on extra, you get in your quality workout outside, then you have your commute back to your house or back to your office or wherever else. And that can kind of be your extra.
You lost short track by 6 seconds, the podium. Yeah. Because it goes 5 deep. Did you wax your chain?
I did use wax. I used squirt, but I didn't do that.
You didn't wax your chain. There's 6 seconds right there, folks. I know you've had mixed results with it on mountain biking.
Yeah.
You're probably not as big a fan as I am, but 6 seconds.
My theory on the wax chains and why they don't work quite as well anymore on like the wide range intended drivetrains that we have is that, like at the bike shop, you used to go to the bike shop, and when they would show you when your chain needed to be replaced, they would like lift it up in the air and hold it sideways, and it would flex. They'd be like, see, this thing flexes way too much. Now chains are made to flex a ton because they're with 1x drivetrains. They have to go. Sure. We're talking about like lateral flex, right? So it has to go all the way down a huge range and then all the way up. And as a result, I think that it's tougher for those chains to since they articulate more, it makes the wax
to retain the wax.
Yeah, not as durable, or it doesn't stay in there quite as much. That's my theory. I have no clue. I could be totally wrong.
So of all the chains I've waxed and waxed a lot, Eagle is the one that it's worked the best for me.
Interesting. And
Which
I've had
crazy.
terrible
and you've had
results.
the terrible, right?
Like,
I know.
And gone through cleaning to the nth degree.
Yeah, I just get noisy chains anytime I wax.
Same. Yeah. So, anyways, on equipment.
I don't either.
Equipment for this one, I had the SB100, the Yeti SB100, and I had my 120 millimeter fork. It did not put me at any sort of disadvantage, and I learned something super interesting on this. So we went to Yeti HQ, and I was talking to them about why they over fork. That's what we call it, over forking your bike.
What does that mean?
So you'll see that most bikes have, all in the Yeti lineup, for example, and this is common across a bunch of other bikes, but just speaking for them, they'll have 100 millimeters in the back and 120 up front.
Got it.
Or 130 in the
That's
rear.
over forking?
150 in the front. Yep.
Sounds funny.
150 in the rear, 170 in the front. Usually it's like plus 20. And everyone says, why do you do that to all of your bikes? Doesn't that make it so that it rides lower in the back, that sort of a thing? And when you look at the trigonometry on the suspension that the bike as it moves through, it's actually even. And what happens is when you actually go down in your travel, you change the head angle of the bike when you go down into your travel. And then it actually makes it so that your bike front and back are actually moving down in the same place. So 120 up front and 100 in the rear. It actually means that your bike moves down front and rear.
So they look at it while it's weighted rather than just sitting there.
Which makes a whole lot of sense because when we ride, it's weighted, right? So, it was awesome. The bike setup was perfect. Thinking of the specific things that I did, I had the roots there. So the roots threw me off a bit with my suspension setup. We don't really have roots here. No. So first thing that I did was on that fork that I have, the MRP ribbon, I can change the positive and negative pressure independently. Nerd warning here for suspension stuff, but I can change it Nate's just leaning back. I can change that independently, and if you add more negative pressure, that means that your fork is going to be sucked down more. It's going to be more plush, right? So I wanted to make my fork more plush was the goal. A lot of the time, the way people would do this with a different fork is you just add in a slightly less compression or less pressure. But then I slowed down my rebound a bunch. And the way you slow down your rebound is you move the red dial on your suspension toward the plus in most cases because you're adding rebound damping. You're slowing it down, its return coming back.
Got it.
And it made it so that my bike stayed way more, like if I was to go over roots, my bike stayed flat. And the suspension wasn't bouncing me around quite as much. And it helped me carry so much momentum through those sections without excessive fatigue in my body from trying to manage a bike that's bouncing around. And it made it so that I could go through one section in particular with a line that only a couple other people were doing. And it was absolutely easy. And for other people, it was really difficult because their tires would be bouncing all over the place. But it was really smooth.
I've been that guy.
Yeah. So it helps. It helps a ton.
I know nothing about suspension.
Don't be afraid to dial things in. I went 4 clicks in on my rebound to make it slower. So front and rear. So anyways, that really helped. And then on the pacing side of things, I basically looked at it and I figured my threshold was around 270, 275 up at that elevation.
Well, what would it be at sea level?
It would have been in somewhere around 310 to 315.
Okay.
So once again, really high. And I looked at that and I basically thought if I stick somewhere between, because the climb is about 8 minutes, not long, 9 minutes long every lap, actually probably closer to 10. And I basically thought, okay, well, that's not an hour, so I can go over my threshold at that. I just don't want to go too far over my threshold because that elevation is really hard to recover. So I thought, stay within 270 to 290 on the climbs. That's what I tried to do. And then on those surgy sections, since I stayed within myself, I was still able to let the power go up there, to keep my momentum up, to not slow down every time it got steep. And I could still recover. And I feel like I was walking that knife's edge, and it's so hard up there because you just go slightly too far, and then you're completely over the edge and you can't recover. But I feel like it was a good tactic. And every race that I saw won by somebody, they did the same tactic. They stayed within themselves, and they didn't go too hard too soon.
Probably because they're more fit.
Yeah, well, yes. For some people that makes a win, and for some people it gets them a ninth.
How many laps did you do?
It's a good strategy. 4 laps.
And how'd your lap splits stack up?
Almost evenly. I think that I had the first lap was faster because we went out harder.
Sure.
I still stayed within myself and just watched the front group walk away. It was hard, but I stuck to my strategy, and I think it paid off because I just picked people off for the rest.
Okay.
But laps 2, 3, and 4, I think the spread was 25 seconds in lap time. So that's pretty close.
And laps were how long?
They were,
Time-wise?
Yeah, I think that they were somewhere around 24 to 25 minutes. So
nice.
pretty long for ex-CEO normally. So
that's well paced.
but yeah, interesting stuff. And then for nutrition, I had bottles pre-mixed with gels taped onto the bottles. I had a small amount of Marten. Like I basically mixed it all, then I diluted it in bottles. Just then, if I was drinking something, I wanted to have water because I was taking in gels too. And I like that for XCO. For marathon stuff, I like drinking it. But for XCO, I wanted to have that.
2 bottles on the bike?
Only one bottle on the bike, and then my wife had a bottle for me in the feed zone every time. Thank you, Sarah. That was awesome. So I would just grab that, and actually on the last 2 laps, I grabbed it and I drank as much as I could, then I just threw the bottle down. I took off the gels, drank it. I didn't carry it with me. There was no need to, right? So that's another thing you can do in XCO. If it was shorter laps than this, I would have never carried a bottle. I would have just grabbed them in the feed zone, drank as much as I could, and then ridden without that extra 3 pounds, from a bottle. Yeah. So it's a little hack.
College was useful. Good of a skill.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. Drinking things quickly. I see where you're going with that.
I got you.
So
a little slow, but I got there.
Gatorade bong.
One quick thing, yeah, exactly. One quick thing that I want to add into this is something interesting. I got the Garmin Forerunner 945 before I went up for here, and it does pulse ox, or SpO2 is what it does. And it was interesting to see, and I know that everyone that knows about this stuff is going to say, well, duh, that's exactly how it's supposed to work. But it's interesting to have the numbers to it. As I went up in elevation, my blood oxygen saturation went down. And it was, usually they say 95 to 100 is where you want to be. That's typical. Yeah. And I find that I actually sit somewhere around 96 usually, 97-ish at our elevation of 5,000 feet. But up there, I was low. Once I got up in elevation, every day it started going lower and lower. So you'll remember before this, I thought, I'm going to go up a few days beforehand. I'm fine. It's not going to affect me. And while true, relatively speaking, it probably doesn't affect me worse than somebody else. It absolutely affected me, and this put data to it. Because I was able to see that every day it started trickling down so that I was at 86 at a resting level rather than up at 96.
Did you happen to notice when it started to trend back up? Or were you on your way?
Once I got out of there. But I was up there 4 days, and for the 4 days it kept trickling down. Days. It never started going back up. So it's just an interesting thing to show that even though you may not feel like you're being affected adversely, your body still is being affected adversely. And the other interesting thing is during the racing was when it was highest, relatively speaking, during that time frame, which makes sense because you're warming up the blood, hemoglobin, all that stuff, oxygen throughout the body.
Great job, dude.
Thank you.
I want to see what it does at Leadville, because that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.
If you think I have better hair than Jonathan, give it a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment.
My hair is better than his.